Welcome to episode 5 of Coffee with Braz, brought to you by Victorian Responsible Gambling Foundation. Love the game. This week we'll be talking to Brianna Davey. I want you to meet our newest captain, Brianna Davies. From kicking a soccer ball on a local field to representing our country, captaining our biggest rivals, and now proudly wearing the black and white. Brie is a person I've always admired as a player, but mostly for the human she is. This is one podcast I have been waiting to do. Get ready, because I feel like this is going to be a good one. Meet my captain, Brianna Davey. Welcome, Brie. Thank you for being on Coffee with Braz.
Thanks for having me, Brazzy. I'm pumped.
Well, thank you. I love you already. I'm just so excited to have a podcast with you. I've been waiting for this moment. But let's talk about your coffee order. What do you have?
Skinny cap. Yeah, that's usually my solid order. I'm trying these days as well to lessen the milk, so like a 3/4 latte sometimes. But yeah, skinny cap is my first go.
See, like Ruby was episode 2 of Coffee with Braz, and like I know she looks up to you a lot. But now I know she's got the same coffee order as you. I think we need to check on that girl because that's a bit
check on
weird.
her.
Yeah, well.
Oh yeah, she goes a bit more chocolate than me though. I saw her speaking about it. She seemed passionate. So yeah.
So she's trying to fake that it's skinny. She's just adding extra chocolate. No, I love that. One thing I just want to get straight into it is you're a soccer player. And I didn't know that about you. So I'm assuming a lot of people wouldn't know that about you. You know, you're one of the captains of our club. You captain Carlton, you're all-Australian footballer. So there's so much people already know about you. But what a lot of people don't know is you played soccer for Australia as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, blows my mind that, one, I didn't know that. I'm quite embarrassed that I didn't know that. But checking all these facts about you, one fact that I found really interesting is that you and your family holiday at this caravan park all the time.
Yep.
And you're 13 years old, you and your family and all these other kids are playing soccer on the field, and just, who knows, just life happens sometimes, and there is a scout there.
Yes.
At a holiday park. Like, what is going on?
It is a bit of a weird story.
And so you're not in a soccer team yet, but then they decide, this girl can play at a holiday park. And what happened? Yeah,
so I actually grew up, mostly what I played growing up was basketball and footy. So I did grow up playing with the boys up until about under 12s. And basketball was the same. Like I was really into my basketball. And I think it got to a stage in both sports where football ended, there was no pathway. And then with the basketball side of things, I think I was sort of starting to experience a little bit of burnout. I know that sounds silly being so young, but I'd done it since I was an absolute in my diapers almost. And then I think it just got to a point where I wanted a shift. And the next best thing at the time was soccer. But I guess how it happened, the first time I actually met this scout, I probably would have been about 8 years old. He and his family went to the same caravan park we went to, and big family holiday park, and they've got this big sort of field in the middle of it. It's like a big oval. And they would have like the annual sort of soccer game each year, and all the kids and their dads and mums would come down, and we'd all just play a big game of soccer. And I remember he approached my dad the first time he had sort of seen me play, and I was the only girl out there. As you can imagine, quite often girls sort of shied away from those sorts of things, but I was sort of a boisterous, if you want to call it, little girl, and I was like, no, I want to play. So I ran out there, and he spotted me from that, and he approached my dad and was like, you know, do you think your little girl would like to play soccer? And Dad was like, oh, mate, like, I don't think so. Like, he comes from AFL and soccer is not, he didn't even really know anything about soccer. So he was like, oh, I don't know, I'll ask her, I don't think so. So he took it to me, and I was like, no way. Like, I'm playing footy, I love basketball, there's no way. So I actually knocked this scout back for a few years. And then, when it got to a point where I actually was looking for a different direction, he came back to me and was like, Brie, you need to start. Like, I think you can do something with this. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a go, and ended up getting into it through that. So it was a bit of a weird transition into it. But yeah, it's sort of fate. It was really weird, like just meeting this guy, and he sort of pushed me in the right direction. And then my sort of career with soccer really skyrocketed pretty fast from there.
Yeah. I love that you say your career, because you were 13 when this obviously happened. And then by 15, so 2 years later, you're picked up by a Melbourne team.
Yeah.
Like, and not just, like, you are now playing at the top level as the second goalie.
Yes. Yeah. No, so I think, I was 15 when I first got signed at Melbourne Victory, and the ruling was you had to be 15. So,
which is so young.
Yeah,
You're still at school. 15,
it's
I don't even reckon I hit puberty at 15. And you're playing an elite sport.
Oh, it's super. It is. It's super young, and the more I look back now, being a bit older, I'm like, that is so young. And I remember it was pretty overwhelming and a bit scary as well, because you're playing with women who are in their 30s, and you're this little 15-year-old. And so the dynamic is very odd because you've got such different age gaps and stuff like that.
And even different experiences. Like the goalkeeper in front of you at the time was the Australian captain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you've only been playing for 2 years.
Yeah. So it's just like it was just a bit of a weird dynamic, I suppose. But I got picked up when I was 15, as soon as I was sort of, I guess, available. I think my first gig when I first started soccer was with a state side. So my literally first taste of soccer, I was playing at state level, and that was, again, overwhelming. I didn't even know what offside was. I remember
I still don't know what that rule means.
Look, it's confusing, I'll be honest, but I remember it was my first state camp, and I literally was fresh to soccer, just wide-eyed fresh to soccer, and we're all sitting there in a team meeting, and I put my hand up, and coach was like, "Yes, Bri," and I was like, I'm just wondering what's offside. The whole room lost it because they were like, "Who is this girl? How does she not know what offside is? She's playing this game. She's got no clue." Yeah. So they just...
And at state level.
Yeah, and at state level, I think they were like, "This girl has got to be joking."
She's never going to make it.
She's never
Get her out now. She's not worth it.
And so then from there, it just really advanced really quickly. I was part of sort of junior Australian teams. I was in the under-13s one and the under-15s, under 17s, and it sort of all progressed really fast. But my first gig at W League level was 15 years old at Melbourne Victory. So it's really cool.
Were you always a goalkeeper, or why did you have to learn? And this is, I guess, me having no idea about soccer or football, what people call it. Do you need to know what the offside rule is being a keeper?
Yeah, you do. You need to be
looking
onto
at me
it.
like I'm the idiot.
No, you do need to be onto it because often you shouldn't. You've got to focus on the play, but at the same time, if it's offside, it helps to sort of try and call it as well to get the referee. I guess it's like in any sport. If you appeal for something, it gets them to think, and they're like, "Oh, is it?" And then they might put their flag up or whatever. Yeah. But you do need to sort of be aware of what offside is. But I didn't actually initially want to be a goalkeeper. I wanted to be an on-field player, like a midfielder or something like that. I'd come from sports where I was used to running and being really involved with the play all the time. So I guess going into goalkeeping was not my first choice, and I sort of fell into it. Initially I did start as an on-fielder, and I might have been okay at it, but I don't think I ever would have been national team level at it. Yeah. And it just turned out one game they needed a goalkeeper, and I was this little 12-year-old kid, and they were like, "We know you come from basketball and footy, so you could probably use your hands. Can you jump in goals?" And I was like, okay. And then
I was about to ask that. I wonder if that's why they put you in there.
Yeah. So I think, honestly, it was just like a hunch they had. Oh, she looks like she'd be all right with her hands. So I was like, whatever. Reluctantly got in there. I didn't want to. But then did okay. And I think from there, started to get more recognition as a goalkeeper and not an on-field player, because I sort of try to split the role a little bit. And then, I guess I sort of fell into it, but my love and respect for the position grew as I started to play it as well.
Yeah, no, and do you find it, because I watch the game and I think, okay, the goalkeepers are clearly the craziest people on the field because they're happy to get balls kicked at them.
Yeah.
And also it's, I guess, like a shooter in netball, that's, you need that goal to win, where for you're the only player if it's a draw and they do penalty.
They're the shootout.
Shootout.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Good,
I'm trying really hard. That you can win or lose the game.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation like that?
Oh yeah. That's the thing as a goalkeeper. It's probably in games anyway. Our training is next level. It's really physically tough. But in games, it's not often the physical side. It's the mental side, because you could be standing in the goals all game. You could have the best game of your life, pulling out saves left, right, and centre, but then comes down in the last minute and they tap a goal through, and then all of a sudden you're the villain of the team because you just let the goal in and you've lost the game. Yeah. So it's just one of those positions where you can be on a real high, but you can also sometimes be on a real low. Yeah. So it was about for me as well, and most goalkeepers, I guess it's just about managing those emotions and being able to be pretty resilient and bounce back if things don't go your way. But penalty shootouts aren't that fun. In saying that though,
if you stop it, I'm sure it would be so much
yes,
fun.
and
the team would love you.
Yeah, then you're loved, yeah. No, I've been in positions where I have made saves in penalty shootouts, and the adrenaline rush is probably like nothing else. So it's cool, but I would say as well the pressure's more on the kicker. So they're sort of expected to score. So if the goalkeeper saves it, it's like a bonus. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing I played soccer at school for fun, or you're kicking the ball around, or I'm with my brother doing like our own penalty shootouts, and you don't realise how big the goal is.
Yeah.
Like you can't just have your arms out and you're touching either end. Like you've got to move your feet. There's a lot, I think it's not, I don't know, maybe it is respected in soccer, but from another athlete, like I think so much work would have to go into it. You can't just be someone that is slow. You've got to be quick as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because look, even people who do know soccer, like I remember some of my teammates I used to play with, like half of it was a joke, but I at the same time, I didn't think they understood what work goes into goalkeeping. Like I think the perception a lot of the time is, they just stand there and they'll just throw their body, make a save every now and then.
So do you do the full training with the team, or do you have your own training?
No, so it's very specific goalkeeper training, and it's honestly some of the hardest but most fun stuff I've ever done. It's a lot of plyometrics, getting up and down. It's essentially, you could probably explain it as like doing burpees for an hour and a bit. It's hard.
Oh, that sounds so much fun. Like, I really want to be a goalkeeper.
It actually is though. It's so much fun. But I always used to say that on fielders, when they'd give me stick and be like, "Oh, goalkeepers are lazy. Like, give me stick about it." I'd just be like,
"Go do your burpees."
Yes, go do a goalkeeper session and then talk to me. And I remember once I got one of my friends to do it. She was like, "All right, fine, I'll do it." I was like, "Sweet." So put her in some gloves, grabbed a ball, and I was like, "Let's go." So I was kicking balls at her, like getting her to dive. And by about 5 minutes in, she's like, "We need to stop. This is not okay."
And is that hard? Like, you've obviously come from basketball and football. You've come from team sports. Is that hard, having to then train by yourself, because you're in a team but you've got your own session?
Yeah, it is odd. I mean, usually in any team there's usually 2 or 3 goalkeepers, so you do have a little army of goalkeepers and you work together, and
little crew.
Little crew. So that's, from that aspect, it's cool because you get quite intimate with those players and you get to really get to know them really well. But in saying that, it is like almost a different sport within a sport. Like, playing as a goalkeeper is so different to what the players do on the field. So, it is weird. And I would say I'm a very team orientated person, so I love to be around the team and that sort of stuff. So it is a bit of a different sort of experience being a goalkeeper.
Yeah. So moving on from being a goalkeeper, but still in the soccer world, one off season you decided to go to Sweden for, I guess, one of their seasons, and what was the reasoning behind that? Yeah,
so at the time I was just finished year 12, so I was 17. I finished school a year early because I was born early in the year. So I finished at 17, and straight after year 12 I'd gotten a call from my manager at the time, and he was just like, "Look, over in Sweden in the professional league their goalkeeper's gone down. They need a goalkeeper, and they've reached out to me and have asked for you." At the time I was playing for the Matildas, so the senior team. I'd had a fair few international caps, so I think they'd seen me play through footage, whatever that was, with that. And then, just gave my manager a call, and then I had to decide pretty quickly if I wanted to go. As you can imagine, 17 years old, I'm such a homebody, and had been used to going away and flying overseas due to being in the national team, but not for long stints, like months at a time, which is what happened when I went to Sweden. Went over. I had about a week to decide. Decided I'd go. Was scared as anything. Got on the plane, got there, and then as soon as I was there, it was a week or so, and I was into my first game there. So it all happened very fast. It was a great experience, but a very hard experience. Most of them are so lovely, and they could speak pretty good English. But when they're in the change rooms and they're all speaking Swedish, and you have no idea what's going on, that is tough. So
So were there people that couldn't speak English?
Majority could, actually, pretty good English.
And is that being a soccer player, like that you've got to because you're obviously travelling, or is that just over there a lot of people can?
I think it's just in Sweden, they learn English at school and they really value learning English, and I think a lot of places in the world really value learning English because it's sort of like the worldwide language, like that, and I think French or something like that. But so most of them knew English. I was the only English speaking person though, like as a first language. I lived with a German girl she was a Ghanaian German girl, so she could speak Ghanaian, German, English, and then she picked up so much Swedish while she was there. You have
amazing.
this Aussie, I learnt like 3 words.
Hey. How are you?
I learned how to say hey, and it's literally hi.
I'm so proud.
Look, it was tough just because I was so little and
You're 17. It's crazy.
And I was still figuring out like who I was and finding my feet as I guess an athlete and everything like that. So going over there and I guess almost feeling like a fly on the wall in the change rooms when you can't understand what's going on, it was tough, but it was such a good experience, and to be honest, I think it taught me a lot about myself because I have to sort of sit with myself a lot in between trainings, and I was by myself a lot, so I sort of had to really learn a lot about myself.
Yeah, and I've read a few things, and the coach Martin, I'm not going to say his last name because there's no way I'll embarrass myself, and I'll probably get myself into trouble, but he describes you as one of the most talented goalkeepers ever.
Yeah.
How does that just make you feel unbelievable? Because it's not like he's obviously a professional coach.
Yeah.
And to hear that you're 17, so you've only been playing for 5 years.
Yeah. So I remember when I heard that quote because it was actually he stated that just before I flew over, and I remember seeing it and like it still makes me nearly fall off my chair now. But like at the time I was like, what? Like. Yeah. I had belief in myself for sure, but I definitely didn't think of myself in that calibre. And I guess I was at the time playing in the senior team, so I was playing as a national team goalkeeper. But still, that is a huge statement, and it didn't put pressure on me at all, really. But subconsciously, I guess it could have affected me, feeling like I had to live up to that when I got over there too. So
I think most athletes, it would definitely play in your mind. He's yet to see you play there. He's seen you on TV, he's seen you here and there, but like you playing with a completely different side, it would be intimidating, especially for a 17-year-old. You must have been pretty, like, I'm going to say sure of yourself, but not in a cocky way, because I guess people that aren't athletes, one thing about athletes is you've got to be a little bit cocky. Yeah. You've got to be sure of yourself, because if you're not, you're going to get walked all over.
Yes.
I guess it's the way you show it is, I guess how people will see you. But when I know for me, and I'm assuming it'd be the same as you, when you cross the line for the field or the court or whatever you're playing, you turn into someone else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I reckon you've got to as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
You've got balls, and I can't kick like they kick. Yeah. It's a bullet coming at you.
Yeah. Oh, it's. I think for me, like when I used to be a goalkeeper, I was completely different to even how I am now. I was a bit crazy, to be honest.
I said that. Goalkeepers are crazy.
Said that, yeah. But just even we were pretty much in charge of commanding and I guess directing the whole team in front of you. So you had to put people into position, and then when you look at review, if someone was out of position, they'd look at the goalkeeper and be like, why don't you tell them to move? Like things like that. So
she had a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility. So things like that, like the pressure was on me a lot with that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so it was definitely communication was your number one thing you had to have as a goalkeeper. So my God, the whole game you just didn't shut up. Yeah. But also at the same time as well, I gave a few sprays I would never give on the footy field.
Well, you give them already, so I can't imagine if you haven't done one at football.
Yeah.
I get a bit nervous, Brie.
I haven't gotten to the same level, Brazill. You should have seen me. I reckon I'd probably make half the team cry if I did what I did when I was playing soccer. But to be honest, it was too far one way though. I'm not saying that was a positive thing when I was playing soccer. It was probably too much.
Well, different sports as well, and different positions. And that's an understanding. If you're getting, you're responsible for your back line.
Yeah.
You got to. I'm like that. I don't think I'm that bad, but as a wing defence, I control the centre pass. So I've got to direct players, and that's hard enough. And I can still move. You can't move, so there's a lot happening in front of you.
Yeah. No, it is. It is very interesting. And like I said, I mean, you're either sometimes the hero or the villain of a game. So you do put a lot of expectations on your players, because essentially, if they don't protect you, you're one out. Yeah. So, I think that's where it comes from as well, for sure.
Yeah. So you did mention that you played for Matildas before going to Sweden.
Yeah. Yep.
And I saw that your very first game, you guys won 4-0.
Yes.
So, and they said how it's when I was reading, it was saying that you had no goals against you and they were calling it your scorecard. Is that a big thing for like a goalkeeper to have 0? Like,
yeah.
do you count those games like, okay, like that was
Well,
massive?
they call it like a clean sheet. I think it depends on where you are. Like I played that game in the US and I think they really look at that sort of stat. Like the goalkeeper had a clean sheet. Wow, that's, it's huge. And it is, even in Australia, it's great to have a clean sheet.
Yeah.
But in saying that though, people who actually know soccer, there's so much more to it. It's not just about what the score sheet says. A million things can happen in a game. You can make 50 saves and then let in 2 really good goals that are in the top corner and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't really mean too much, especially to goalkeepers. We're just like, whatever, we just want to do what we can for the team and hopefully we win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the first game was, I should know, but I think it was against Haiti. So it was sort of like a bit of a warm-up. Yeah, it was against them, and it was sort of, I guess, a little bit of a warm-up game. They probably weren't seeded very well at the time, whereas we were up and coming as a team. And then the following game was against the US. And so I was 16 years old actually when I played that game. Yeah. And it was in LA. And I just remember walking out and just the whole stadium was at the LA Galaxy's ground now. I can't even remember what it's called, the stadium. But the whole place was just packed with the crazy Americans just screaming at us. Like,
what an experience.
It was just like one of the best sporting moments I've ever had, as well as obviously playing in the first ever AFLW women's game. But and
as a goalkeeper, do you get to take that in? Because like obviously everyone's running around and trying to block that out, but you're stationary a lot of the time.
Yes,
so while the ball's down the other end, are you like, whoa?
Yeah, well, it was a bit like that. Like, to be honest, I think even now playing footy as well, like when there's a crowd, you sort of, as soon as you start playing, it's like you lock it out and you just become you just become very focused on what you're doing. But I remember that was my first experience of a large crowd like that. Yeah. 16 years old. My job most of the time is to talk to my players, but they couldn't hear me from me to you. Yeah. So that was sort of, I had to start using my body language and like, if players would look at me, I'd have to start signalling with my hands, which I wasn't used to. But definitely, like, that's the one thing about goalkeeping. You need to stay in tune and focused in the game the whole time. Yeah. Because if you switch off one moment, the ball comes down, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So I'm going to get off soccer, but one last question. So you obviously were picked up in a caravan park kind of thing, like a park, a big oval. Do you believe in, like, I guess, being there at the right time, or do you believe in hard work? Because it's a bit of both. Because I see you as one of the hardest working athletes ever that I've trained with. I love training with you, but yeah, do you believe in, I guess, being the place at the right time as well? No,
thanks, Braz. That's really nice. But no, I think both. I think there's definitely in sport, even on game day, there's always a little bit of luck involved, I reckon. Yeah. Absolutely. I think hard work is absolutely pivotal. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not going to put your head down and work hard, I honestly believe like it's going to go to waste. Yeah. And you won't be respected by your teammates either, which is so important to me. Obviously having respect from your teammates and knowing that you're going to work hard for them. But yeah, I definitely think there's a mix of that, like being in the right time at the right place.
You've got to be. Like I reckon it's both as well, because if you're not there, then unlucky.
100%. I don't think I even would have considered soccer if the scout didn't turn up. His name's Foddy, by the way. I keep calling him the scout, Foddy. But thank you, Foddy. But if he didn't rock up, I don't even know if I would have considered soccer. So it is pretty crazy how things turn out.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so moving on to AFLW.
Yes.
Carlton. So you get picked up with Carlton. Different to like the Collingwood girls. So Collingwood played Carlton in the first ever game.
Yeah.
It's you being Carlton. It's your home stadium. It's a lockout, and you win.
Yes.
So everyone says great experience, even though that we lost.
Yeah.
How did you feel being on the winning team?
Oh, it was awesome. Honestly, like I said before, that's one of the best sporting moments I've ever had. That and probably my debut for the national team with soccer. But I just remember that day. We were in the rooms at the time, and I think it was about 2 hours. Usually, rock up 2 hours or so before the game, and obviously there was a crowd sort of starting to filter in. By the time we ran out for our first warm up, it was about an hour before, and I looked around and I was like, far out, like this is pretty cool. There's probably 7,000 people at that point, so I did not know what was going to come. But I was like, oh, this is a pretty good turnout. How good? All the girls were like, oh, 7,000 people, great. Went back inside, and then we were about to come out for the second warm-up just before we obviously go to play. And as we were waiting in the race, I remember just hearing like rumbling on top of us because the rooms at Carlton sort of they go underground sort of thing.
Yeah.
So literally the crowd is on top of you and you just felt the roof rumble and you could hear the noise. And I was like, we were all like, what is going on? Like, I was like, is there a thunderstorm? Like, what's happening? Anyway, then we ran out and just the crowd, literally every seat was full. Did you play in that game, Brazill?
No, I was still a netballer.
Yes, you're still netball.
And
that's what I thought.
It breaks my heart that I wasn't there. I did talk about this game in Ruby's podcast.
Yeah.
I asked her how she felt about it, and she's like, it was great. Well, I'm like, I was there, and I was hating you that you were on the ground and I wasn't.
It was, Braz, it was honestly the coolest experience. And when we're waiting in the race and then we walked out and we started to run out, I just looked around and I was in awe. Like it honestly stopped me in my steps. And I think it was more than just footy. It was way more than just footy for me at the time. Looking around, you could see mothers and older women and people, young girls screaming out to us and crying. And like, it was like they were seeing their dreams come true through us.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool because women's footy has been around for 25, 30 longer years, but it's just never been acknowledged, and it was the first time it had been. So for me, it was much more than just a game of footy. It was actually a real social, move, and I think it started to change the stereotype around football. And for me, it was much more than just a game.
And this is what I love about you, Bri. Like, you're so in the moment. You're not like, I'm just here playing footy, doing my job.
Yeah.
And like most athletes you talk to, it's like, I didn't realise until I retired, or I wish I enjoyed it when I was playing. There's all these things where every time I talk to you, it's like, this is how I felt. This is what it was like. You describing then, I felt like crying just then. I was like, that's how I was watching it, and I felt like, wow. There's no other moment in my life where I'm like, wow, this is just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. I'm with you. I was trying to hold back tears running out through the banner. Like,
I love that you can experience, know that though, that's happening rather than that freaking out either. It was just like, wow, this is such a cool moment.
Yeah. It was just unbelievable. And the messages you got afterwards, like women reaching out from all over Australia being like, I watched you guys play. I was crying, like inspirational. Couldn't believe it. I've always wanted to play, and you guys have just done what I've always wanted to do. And for me, like even now, it sounds a bit, I don't know, a bit cliche or something, but I definitely run out and think about that when I do play. I'm like, I'm representing way more than just me here.
Yeah.
And my teammates. Yeah. So
and you talk about how you do it for, I guess, other women and how powerful that was. You've now created a little group at our club that is the AFLW working group. And I know Jane, our high performance person at the club, she's trying to get the netballers involved because she just loves what it's about. What made you start up this group? And first of all, for the people that are listening, what is it?
Yeah, so I guess it's just a little group of us that essentially are there to represent the players. And it's about trying to move not only, I guess, Collingwood, but I guess the wider AFL sort of community sort of in the right direction in terms of equality and things like that. And obviously AFL, the industry has been so male dominated for a very long time. So obviously now that there's women aboard, it's just about making sure that, it's equal and we're getting the things that we deserve. And, I think this group has sort of, come from that. And all the girls that are involved with it are just incredible. I mean, the whole team is incredible. Essentially what it is we take things that we think could be improved within our four walls, and we speak about it with Mark, the CEO, and Jane, obviously our GM. And once we've sort of had a chat about it, then we think about what we can do to make it better and what things we're doing well already. So it's sort of, like I said, I guess I sort of was the catalyst of the group, but the girls that are involved with it are doing such good work. And obviously if we can get the netballers involved too, I think it would just be awesome and really powerful.
And what makes you so passionate? Like, where did this come from? I know you've got two sisters. I love watching them on Instagram, and I love your mum. She's one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. Yeah. Does it come from them, or is this something that you've just found along your way playing to elite sports? Yeah, look, I have a lot of very fierce women in my life. My mum and my sisters are three of those, but I think it definitely somewhat sprouts from them as well, but it's also my own personal beliefs. And I think growing up, and could be similar to what you experienced, Brazill, I don't know, but
growing up playing footy, so I played, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, played footy with the boys growing up, and even at school I was always into the boys stuff, or my interests were always what boys liked, or my clothes were always what boys wore, and it was always that sort of stereotype.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, I was a pretty resilient little thing. Like, I reckon I shrugged it off, but subconsciously, absolutely, it affected me. Yeah. And I think now as an adult, reflecting on that, I don't want to see that happening to any other girl. Yeah. I don't want them to feel that they have to be boxed in, or they have to be a certain type of person, or, footy isn't for girls, for example. Yeah. And I think that equality message, that goes right through that, and there's so many socially constructed things that are just so, I guess, toxic to equality and making people feel that they can be who they are and things like that. So for me, it's there's so many experiences I could speak about, but the one that shoots out to me the most is, I guess, what I experienced as a kid and always being told you shouldn't be doing that, or that's not for you, or boys do this, you don't do this. Yeah. So I think
we've proven those people wrong, mate.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. And I think like you talk about equality, and I think AFLW has really brought that into sport. And I know playing netball, which is so female, you've got to be a certain way, you wear the dress, you've got to have your hair up in a certain way, and I really struggled playing netball as a kid, but you were always told just to be grateful, never speak up because you're grateful to be here.
Yes.
And I honestly believe, like, one, for me, it's 100%. You guys have all taught me, no, that's not good enough. You need to speak up. This is how you be an athlete. This is what you need. You need all the best to be the best, and I was shocked when I first learnt that, because I was like, no, just say thank you. You know, where it's like, nah, well, I can't be the best athlete now because of this. Like, so I definitely owe it to AFLW, but I think now other sports like netball are now following that. And you would think it's the opposite, because netball's been around forever.
Yes.
And we've had the likes of Liz Ellis, Catherine Cox, who drive our sport so well, and we've never, I guess, known how to follow that, where I think now having other sports competing against us, it's like, wow, we need to jump on this bandwagon, otherwise we're going to go missing.
Oh, absolutely. I think we've just been socially conditioned since we're little to believe, like you're saying, be grateful. Yeah. You're getting given an opportunity, so that's good enough. No, it's not good enough, actually. And I think, like you said, when other sports start to push each other, that's the best possible outcome for women's sport, because each sport is going to have to keep... It's not a negative
thing.
Yeah, we're just going to have to keep raising the bar. Yeah. So, it's really cool to hear that about netball too, because I definitely think in soccer that was a bit of the gist, particularly when I was younger. I think socially now things have shifted in soccer, like you were saying with the netball. Yeah. But when I was younger as well, it was like we were playing per week. I think we were on $70 a week, maybe $40 if you started on the bench. Yeah. Like you look at it like that, and it's like we've come a long way. It's got to get better, but we've come a long way.
Oh, and soccer especially. I remember one of my friends' cousins played for the Matildas, and when she was playing, they had to pay their own way to get overseas. Like, and that just blew my mind. Like, but definitely, Brie, that's something you've taught me to, like, actually stand up for something that, like, I feel. It doesn't have to be right or wrong, but if I have that feeling and belief, just to say it and actually stand up. So thank you for, I guess, giving me the courage to actually do that.
That's awesome, Brazill.
I'm going to go back to Carlton.
Yep.
You're the captain of the club.
Yep.
And you're the only captain to ever then come play for Collingwood.
Yes.
And then you've upped it, and now you're the captain of our team.
Yeah.
Like, so in my eyes, you're the most hated person at Carlton. I don't know how the fans would even look at you again.
Oh, no.
Again, why I love football, because they are just so passionate. But why the move? Because, you got best and fairest, all Australian, the captain. A lot of people, I reckon, would say, well, her money was more.
Yeah,
and I know how that feels. Like, let's be real, why the move?
Look, it's complex, and there's a lot that goes into it. And I think people sometimes don't see what happens, obviously, behind closed doors. In terms of what I mean is, like, the decision or the time that goes behind thinking about what decision you're going to make. So for me, when I made the decision, it was hard. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, I just went, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Collingwood now. Like, that was not the situation at all. If anything, it took me a while to get used to that I could be moving clubs. And when I did, it even took me a while to find my feet, like, to be honest. But I guess essentially for me, I've always felt whenever I've made a sort of a move in my career that puts me out of my comfort zone, I've grown as an athlete and I've grown as a person. And so for me, that was essentially part of the move. And I do think I've already grown as a person and as an athlete. I've had to meet a whole group of new girls. I've had to adjust. I've had to, I guess, see what can I do to help this group? What can I try and get from them and learn from them? Just things like that, I think, all play a part of it. And I guess that was part of the reason I moved and copped a lot of criticism, as you can imagine, for it. I've moved from one rival club to another, so I get it. And I still think there's people who have a bit of a bitter taste in their mouth over it, and that's fine too. But I'm happy with what I'm doing, and I'm absolutely loving being here. And the girls were incredible last season, welcoming me in. But this season, I just feel so much more obviously on my feet. I know what I'm doing, and I just feel much more comfortable this season. So I just can't wait to play, to be honest.
Yeah, well, mate, you definitely fit into this group, and a lot of us, including me, look up to you, not just on the field but off the field. So it's been awesome to have you. You bring your elite standards second to none. You're
Thanks,
unbelievable. But one thing I do want to talk about, because this again I just find incredible. Your girlfriend, who you've been with for a long time, she plays for St Kilda.
Yes.
And she's a jet. She's a good player. How do you play against her? Because, if I put myself in this position and your shoes, and if Brooke played for St Kilda, I would choose Brooke over our team. I know that's really bad, but if someone went to tackle her, I would tackle them. Yeah, I'd be go they, kick the goal, yes. I don't know, I just couldn't do it. And Brooke has said, I really want to play footy, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, you're not.
I don't want you to get hurt, which is so bad. And I'm being those people that told you can't play. It's definitely a protection thing for me. But how do you go coming up against Tilly?
Yeah, it's. I've had this question before, and it's very interesting because me and Till literally since we first met. So we've been together a bit over 5 years. And when we first met was at footy, and we've played all of our footy together besides the last season, where I went to, because we were at Carlton together the first couple of years. So I obviously came here, and she went to St Kilda. So we've only played one game against each other, and it was VFL level. So we were meant to play them last season, but then with COVID and everything, it cut short, and we didn't play each other. We were the next round up. But yeah, we've spoken about it and had a bit of a laugh and have said what happens if we go head to head at a footy and stuff like that. And look,
because is Tilly in the midfield?
She is playing off the back line there.
She seems to be everywhere.
Yeah, she's
always on camera.
Yeah, she's playing in the back line for Saints. She's played a few different positions, but at Saints she sort of plays off their back line. But yeah, so the potential is we could run into each other. Obviously, me playing midfield, if I do, I don't often push forward, but if I do, I suppose she's going to be playing around me. Yeah. But yeah, look, we're both competitive, so it'd be interesting to see what happens. But I'm never the type of person to clean up a play anyway, so I'm definitely not going to do that to my partner. But
we'll just tackle her. Yeah. Hey, babe, run off. And that's one thing I've had to learn in footy as well, which is such a different dynamic that there are girlfriends and there are exes and there are relationships that you don't actually realise how many players actually have to play against their partner and then at the end of the game go home together.
I know. To be honest,
eat dinner together.
Exactly.
After someone's won and someone's lost.
I actually think it's harder playing with them, to be honest. Because you gotta obviously separate your relationship from the professional. You got to be professional. Yeah. And I think me and Till had we balanced that really well, but it's hard. At times, you want to spray them, but you wouldn't do that to somebody somebody else. It's just because they're your partner and you have a different relationship. So I almost found it harder playing with her. But
and you probably wouldn't be able to switch off either. You'd go in together, you'd probably talk the whole way home about the training and you'd have to definitely find a time when to switch off.
Oh, absolutely. And I was the captain at the time too, so I had to find that balance of being able to look out for the team and also not look you always have that in the back of your head. Oh, what would that look biased? I don't know. If I'm giving Tilly,
I didn't even think
doing
of that.
Something, things like that. And like I said, I think
that's her girlfriend. That's
why she's doing it. Yeah. And it's no, that's not in me at all to be that.
If you just have to meet you and that's not.
But it's just something that you constantly think about because you're I don't want it to look like that. And again, particularly I was the captain, so I definitely couldn't have it being like that. So, yeah. But
Well, I'm
it's interesting.
looking forward to us playing St Kilda just so
it'll be
I
good.
can watch you two and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because if I was Peter Sell, I'd probably put Tilly on you just to try and throw you.
Yeah. Well, look, Tilly's about. She's probably.
Hopefully she doesn't listen to this podcast because she will clean her up. Don't you worry.
Well, look, Tilly would put up a good fight, but she is probably up to about here on me. I'm up to my hip. So it might be a mismatch in terms of, weight to weight ratio, but it'd be interesting. Yeah.
No. Anyway, Bri, like, you're amazing. I'm in awe whenever you're playing footy, whenever you talk. Like this podcast, I'm sitting here just going, I just love your passion. So
thanks,
thank you
Brazill.
so much for bringing that, one, to this show, but two, to our team, because you're loved by everyone, not just the AFLW team, but the netballers as well. So keep being you, because, you're unreal. And thank you for being on this week's episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the ground.
You're a legend. Thanks, Brazill.
Thanks, Gav.
Appreciate it.